தானலவை கோஷ க்ஷேத்திரமிதில் வளர் தானெனும் மானமாம் தானிய உளுந்தை நானாரன் ஞான விசார திரிகையில் நானல்லவென்றே உடைத்து பொடித்து
ತನುವಿನ ನೆಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆದ ಅಹಮ್ಮಿನ ಹುರುಳಿಯ ಕಾಳನ್ನು ಸುರಿಯೋ ನಾನಾರೆನ್ನುವ ಆತ್ಮ ವಿಚಾರದ ಬೀಸುವ ಕಲ್ಲಳು ನುರಿಯೋ
ತನುವನು ನೇಲನು ಬೆಂಚಿನ ಅಹಮನು ಉಲವಲು ಧಾರಗ ಪೋಸಿ ನೇನೆವರಿನ ನೆಡಿ ಆತ್ಮ ವಿಚಾರ ಪುಟಿರುಗಲಿ ನಂದಿಡಿ ವಿಸುರು
तन के खेत में उगे अहम के उरद दानों को लिए मन ही मन में कूटते जाओ आत्म विचार के बल से।
More Ramana to all. This is from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, South Bangalore. We are having the self-inquiry satsang of Thursday. We start the day's satsang by reading a verse from Guruvachaka Kovai. Guruvachaka Kovai contains 1254 verses written by Muruganar Swamigal and about 27 verses written by Bhagavan, the original verses of Bhagavan. We are reading from the translation to English. There are three segments in Guruvachaka Kovai. One is investigation into truth. The second part is meditation on truth. And the third part is experience of truth. Today, we are reading from meditation on truth, verse number 809. King Mahabali was initially prevented by his guru Shukracharya from giving land to Vishnu, as he, Shukracharya, knew beforehand that the king would surely be ruined by gifting this land to Vishnu. However, the king ignored the advice and offered the 3 steps of land to Vishnu, who is himself the lord of the goddess of wealth, Mahalakshmi. Vishnu came in the guise of a dwarf to accept this gift. As a consequence of this donation, the king was pushed to the end of the underworld, but even so, he attained a glory that will never cease so long as the world exists. Therefore, whatever disastrous consequences may befall you as a result of helping others, it is worth accepting these consequences even at the cost of selling yourself. I'll repeat the verse again. This is the subtopic is on philanthropy. So I read the verse again. It is verse number 809. King Mahabali was initially prevented by his guru Shukracharya from giving land to Vishnu, as he, Shukracharya, knew beforehand that the king would surely be ruined by gifting this land to Vishnu. However, the king ignored the advice and offered the 3 steps of land to Vishnu, who is himself the lord of the goddess of wealth. Vishnu came in the guise of a dwarf to accept this gift. As a consequence of this donation, the king was pushed to the end of the underworld, but even so, he attained a glory that will never cease so long as the world exists. Therefore, whatever the disastrous consequences that may befall you as a result of helping others, it is worth accepting these consequences even at the cost of selling yourself. So Bhagavan says that self-realization is the best help that one can do to others. Therefore, the import of this verse is that one should take all steps to attain self-realization. Because what Bhagavan says is here is that irrespective of the consequences, go all out to help others. And Again and again, Bhagavan says, the best help one can do to others is self-realization. There is no greater help than to be the self. Therefore, the import of this verse is, whenever a fear of consequences of self-inquiry comes, what will happen to me if I let go of thought and hold the self? Whenever that doubt comes, without fear, without hesitating, let go of that doubt, let go of that fear also, and hold the I. Absolutely, there is no greater help to the co-traveler, to the co-travelers, and to the world, except to attain self-realization. Muruganar earlier in Guruvachaka Kovai tells that Bhagavan's appearance here and the teaching of the self-knowledge to all is the greatest gift that Mother Earth can receive. In fact, Bhagavan has appeared here due to a great prayer of Mother Earth. That is how he begins Guruvachaka Kovai. As a result of the prayer of Mother Earth, Bhagavan appears here. So without hesitating, without taking to any form of fear, completely relying on Guru's grace and Guru's Shakti to help us in inquiry, let us go all out in practicing Atma Ucharam. The method is, as soon as a thought appears, one should not try to build or try to complete that thought with more thoughts, because that process is never going to end. Thought itself being limited, it is a limited activity to build with more thoughts. So Bhagavan says, as soon as a thought arises, ask for whom this has arisen. Elsewhere in talks, Bhagavan says that Uma, Parvati, when she came down to the earth to practice meditation on who is Shiva, it appears, Bhagavan says this in the talks in two places, it appears that she could see a huge light appear in her meditation. Then she says, if this light can be seen by me, if this light falls within the scope of my vision, then the light is lesser than me and I am greater than the light. I will repeat that. If I can see the light, then that light is falling within the scope of my vision. Therefore, I am greater than the light. I should hold myself for the truth and let go of the light. And that way she attains self-realization. From that, what we gather, whatever we see, whatever comes within the scope of our vision, that is smaller than who we are. So the truth is not realized by holding on to what we see. So as soon as a thought arises, what we should realize, we are seeing the thought. So that is within the scope of our vision. We should let it go. For whom is this thought? The answer will always be, this thought is for me. Immediately make the quest, who am I? And hold the I. This is the practice. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit for Atma Ucharam. नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. We read the second verse. This is also from Meditation on the Truth. The subsegment is the greatness of Upanishads. Verse number 509. For God, whose very nature is grace, ignorance is unknown. His lotus feet rest on the pedestal of true knowledge, and the golden sandals on his feet are the Upanishads. For the futile ego that is intoxicated with intellectual knowledge, the only worthy pursuit is to take upon its head those sandals, the Upanishads. There is a quotation from Bhagavan. Each one knows the self, but is yet ignorant. The person is enabled to realize only after hearing the Mahavakya. Hence, the Upanishadic text is the eternal truth to which everyone who has realized owes his experience. After hearing the self to be Brahman, the person finds the true import of the self and reverts to it whenever he is diverted from it. Here is the whole process of realization. I will read that again. For God, whose very nature is grace, ignorance is unknown. His lotus feet rest on the pedestal of true knowledge, and the golden sandals on his feet are the Upanishads. For the futile ego that is intoxicated with intellectual knowledge, the only worthy pursuit is to take upon its head those sandals, the Upanishads. Now, Bhagavan says in Ulladu Narpadu that the Mahavakyas all lead to only one thing, to point that Tattvamasi as one of the main Mahavakyas. Now, Tattvamasi doesn't mean that you repeat Tattvamasi or Aham Brahmasmi, but you inquire, who am I? Thou art that doesn't mean you repeat thou art that. But who is this thou? Who am I? It is the essence of Upanishadic teachings. Bhagavan says here that God is full of grace and he doesn't have a trace of ignorance. The root of all ignorance is the ego. And to remove that, Bhagavan has given us this Brahmastram of who am I. In Aksharamanamala, Bhagavan says that Arunachala should teach us the essence of Upanishads, Veda Vedanta Saram. Now, this is the Veda Vedanta Saram which is quoted here, that one should go to the Mahavakyas and implement the Mahavakyas not as a dhyana, not as Soham Bhavanai, but as who am I? Non-yar. Then find out that I am not apart from the self, and as quoted in the translated work, whenever the mind moves away from the source, repeatedly take it back to the source. Whenever the mind goes after the thought, draw it back and fix it in the self till the self is realized, till the golden sandals, which are the Upanishads, the essence of the Upanishads, is realized by removing the ignorance of ego. This is the Brahmastram that Bhagavan gives us. How it is to be practiced, I will repeat again, since this is the first session that we have opened up. In the earlier part, I had said, whenever a thought arises, do not pursue it. Let it go by asking for whom is this thought, and then make the quest, who am I? With practice, you need not wait for thought to arise. You can directly hold the I. You can directly hold the I. This is called as Summa Iruttal. This is called as practice of Summa Iruttal, being still. In some of the explanations to Bhagavan's teachings, some commentators call it as self-attention, but it is being still. So this is the other form of self-enquiry. Instead of waiting for thought to arise and letting it go and asking, who am I? One can directly hold the I. Swami Natanananda asks Bhagavan, is this Summa Iruttal or being still, is it laziness? The question from Swami Natanananda to Bhagavan is contained in Upadesha Manjari, where Swami Natanananda asks, is this being still Summa Iruttal laziness? Bhagavan says, no. Being still is not laziness. In fact, it is Mulu Muyarchi. He says, it is complete effort, fullness of effort. And Bhagavan explains why. He says that for all other mundane activities, part of the mind is only used, and that too with repeated breaks. Whereas to be still and hold the I, one should use the whole mind, and this is done without breaks. I will repeat that. Why Bhagavan says this being still is Mulu Muyarchi, Atma Vicharam is Mulu Muyarchi, because for every other effort, mundane efforts, part of the mind is only used, and that too with frequent breaks. But for being still or holding the I, the whole mind cannot move even for a single thought, and cannot move with even a single break, because single break means thought. That is why Bhagavan calls that this Mulu Muyarchi directly enables us to cross Maya. Maya, which is not transcended by any other effort, is transcended by this Mulu Muyarchi of Atma Vicharam, being still. So that are the two forms in one sense, one leading to another. As you practice letting go of thought, once in Bhagavan is asked in the talks, do we have to limitlessly keep letting go of thoughts? Bhagavan says no. There will come a time when you will be able to directly hold the I. It doesn't mean that endlessly you keep letting go of thoughts. That is the Mulu Muyarchi of Summa Iruttal. Let us sit for the Atma Vicharam. नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. I would like to share a small incident that a student devotee has in Bhagwan's ashram. The student is being educated as a scientist and is probably in the last year of his college. He has given his exams, he's written the exams, and the previous year he was brought to Bhagwan by his father. So he has some holidays and some little refund in his pocket. So he decides, why not go to Ramanashram before going to our hometown? From hostel, he decides, let me go to Ramanashram and then go to hometown. So he comes to the meditation hall expecting that Bhagwan will be like a professor answering questions. But he is disappointed to see that people are all sitting silently, and therefore he takes a book that is lying on the floor, Ulladu Narpadu, and immediately drops it in frustration. As soon as Bhagwan sees him drop the book, Bhagwan turns on him and asks, what is the matter? Then the collegiate scientist, who has just then learnt about the powers of the atom and the vastness of the universe, he asks Bhagwan, here at least two people are there. One person sitting on the sofa, one person sitting on the divan, and another person, me, sitting on the ground. At least two of us are there. Then how do you say that Ulla Porul is only one? That which is only one. That is what I see in your book. That is why I am frustrated. I am able to see at least two. Then Bhagavan smiles at him and tells, are you not studying science? He says, yes, yes, yes. And Bhagavan says, have you not done experiments in your laboratory? The student says, yes, yes, yes. And then Bhagavan asks, don't you agree that the truth of the object is better seen depending on the subtlety of the instrument you use to see? If you use your eyes, it is differently seen. If you use a lens, it is differently seen. If you use a microscope, it is seen differently. The student has to agree. He says, yes, the finer the instrument used, the better is the truth of the person on the sofa seen. Agreed. Then Bhagavan says, however refined or subtle the instrument may be, if the eyes you are using to see through the instrument, if the eyes are not clear, if the eyes are disturbed, will you be able to see the truth of the object? The scientist says no. Then Bhagavan takes him to the mind. Even if the eye is clear, if your attention is thinking of something else, if your mind is thinking of something else, will you be able to see the truth of the object? Student says no. Then Bhagavan comes to what is the mind. Out of all the thoughts in the mind, it is the I thought that is the first thought, and it is the I thought which sees the other thoughts, and it is the I thought which is the last thought to go. So it is the I thought which is the primary instrument with which you see the mind, you see your eye, and then you see the microscope through which you are seeing the object. Are you able to see this? That is, Bhagavan is saying that it is the I thought with which we are perceiving others. Now he comes to analyze the I thought. He says that this I thought has two components. One is the consciousness, which is eternal, which is unchanging, which is immortal. And the body, which is perishable, dependent on outside food, and changes from moment to moment. So this I thought is actually I am the body thought containing these two components. On the one side, absolutely pure, absolutely immortal, absolutely niralamba, not dependent on anything. But it has combined with an instrument which is perishable, dependent on food, and keeps changing. Bhagavan says, when you are using such a corrupted instrument, how can you see the truth of the person sitting on the sofa? So far as the I thought has the mixture of consciousness and body, how will you be able to see the truth of the other? So first, clear the I thought of all association with the body. Purify it. Remove the mortal contents of it. And we know today that Atmavicharam is the direct method to purify the I thought, so that it sees not only the person seated on the divan, but whatever it perceives is only the self. So without reference to any change in circumstances, one can directly purify oneself and reach the self. That is the incident. It is called as a scientist becomes an Advaitin. It was later published in Mountain Path also. Namo Ramana.